First, every martial art that's effective in the street. Boxing. Boxing is one of the oldest and most proven striking arts in the world. It started in ancient Greece as bare-knuckle combat and was refined in 18th century England with rules, gloves, and weight classes. Today, it's practiced worldwide and built around one core idea: efficient, powerful punching. It teaches you how to throw fast, accurate strikes with your hands, while also showing you how to defend. Head movement, footwork, and blocking are drilled constantly. The result is a system focused entirely on timing, reaction, and control. In a street fight, that kind of control matters. Most fights start on the feet and end within seconds. Boxing prepares you for that first chaotic moment. It teaches you to keep your hands up, stay calm, and land before the other person does. A jab to the nose can stun someone. A cross to the jaw can end it. And if the other guy is swinging wildly, your footwork and defense help you avoid damage. You learn to slip, pivot, and get out of the way, or disengage completely if needed. That's something most martial arts don't emphasize enough. Muay Thai. Muay Thai originated in Thailand as a form of battlefield combat, used when weapons were lost and hand-to-hand fighting became necessary. Over time, it evolved into a structured combat sport known as the Art of Eight Limbs, referring to the use of fists, elbows, knees, and shins. It's a striking system built around maximum efficiency and damage, using every part of the body as a weapon. In training, you learn to throw elbows that can cut, knees that can crush, and kicks that can stop someone in their tracks. The roundhouse kick is one of Muay Thai's signature weapons, using the full rotation of the body to generate serious force. You also learn clinch control, how to control the opponent's posture, shut down their offense, and strike from inside with short, brutal attacks. This becomes especially useful in a street fight where space is limited and punches get wild. Most untrained people swing with their arms. Muay Thai teaches you to step in, grab the neck, control their movement, and punish them with knees and elbows. You're not backing up, you're closing the gap and taking control. Elbows are small but dangerous. In a street fight, one well-placed elbow to the temple or cheekbone can cause cuts, knockouts, or both. Knees to the body or head can drop someone instantly. And if someone's trying to square up and throw big punches, a low kick to the leg or a teep to the gut can stop them from moving altogether. Jiu Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu Jitsu started with Japanese Jiu Jitsu, but it was in Brazil where it was transformed into something more practical, especially for smaller fighters. The Gracie family focused on adapting techniques so that leverage and positioning could beat strength and size. It wasn't about who hit harder, it was about who knew what to do once the fight hit the ground. BJJ is entirely based on control. You learn how to take someone down, hold them in place, and finish the fight with a submission, like a choke or a joint lock. You also learn how to escape bad positions, recover guard, and stay calm when someone's on top of you. In street fights, this is critical. A lot of real-world fights end up on the ground. Someone slips, someone tackles, someone grabs your legs, and suddenly it's not about striking anymore. Most people panic once they're down. BJJ teaches you to stay composed. It gives you a plan. You don't have to throw punches. You don't even have to hurt anyone permanently. With BJJ, you can end a fight by cutting off the blood supply to someone's brain or hyperextending a joint. Clean, effective, and fast. And because it relies on leverage, it's one of the few martial arts where a smaller person can control or finish someone much bigger. It's not perfect, it doesn't deal with multiple attackers well, and you don't want to stay on the ground if someone's friends are nearby. But one-on-one, especially in close contact, BJJ is one of the most practical systems for real-world survival. Krav Maga. Krav Maga was developed by the Israeli military for one purpose: real-world survival. It's not a sport. It has no rules, no competitions, and no scoring. Every technique is built for high-risk, high-stress situations, fast, violent, and unpredictable. Training focuses on targeting weak points. That includes eye gouges, groin strikes, throat punches, and other disabling moves. It also includes defenses against guns, knives, and multiple attackers. The goal is to neutralize the threat immediately and escape. Krav Maga doesn't waste time on perfect form. It trains you to respond under pressure, using natural reflexes and aggressive counterattacks. Everything is designed to work when adrenaline is high and thinking is low. It's effective in street scenarios because it assumes the attacker is dangerous, possibly armed, and not fighting fair. The system prioritizes speed, aggression, and simple techniques that can be used by anyone regardless of size or strength. It's especially useful when there's no time to grapple or trade punches, when the only option is to end the threat quickly. Wrestling. Wrestling is one of the oldest forms of combat, practiced for thousands of years and still dominant today in schools, Olympic sports, and professional fighting. It focuses on takedowns, body control, clinch strength, and staying on top. Wrestlers are trained to control where the fight happens, whether it stays standing or hits the ground, and that makes them dangerous in any real-world situation. Most street fights are chaotic and short. A wrestler can end one fast by slamming someone to the pavement. On concrete, you don't need to strike. The impact alone can finish it. If the fight keeps going, top control allows the wrestler to hold position, shut down movement, and avoid damage, even against bigger or stronger opponents. It also teaches how to escape from bad spots. If someone grabs you or drags you down, wrestling gives you the tools to stay calm and get out. The cardio and conditioning from wrestling also means you won't fade early, even under stress. Judo. Judo was developed in Japan in the late 1800s by Jigoro Kano, built from traditional jiu-jitsu but refined for efficiency and control. The focus is simple. Use your opponent's force against them. Instead of overpowering, you redirect. Instead of chasing the fight, you wait for the opening, and then you throw. It teaches how to off-balance someone with minimal effort. Hip throws, sweeps, and trips are trained until they become automatic. Grip fighting becomes a key skill, and once you're in close, a well-timed throw can flip someone over with their own momentum. In a street fight, that kind of control is powerful. One clean throw onto concrete can end the fight immediately. You don't have to strike, which makes judo especially useful in situations where you want to neutralize someone without legal consequences or visible damage. It also works well in close quarters, places where punches don't land clean and panic takes over. Judo gives you an answer when someone charges forward or grabs you in a rush. And once the fight hits the ground, judo transitions into basic pins and submissions. It's not as deep on the mat as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it gives you enough to stay on top and keep someone down. Sambo. Sambo was developed in the Soviet Union during the 1920s, created by military officers who studied judo, wrestling, and indigenous fighting styles to build one thing: a system that works under pressure, not in theory, in the field. Sambo became the official hand-to-hand combat system of the Red Army, and it shows. It trains for everything: fast takedowns, slick throws, brutal leg locks, and gritty ground control. Where judo focuses on balance and control, Sambo pushes it further, adding raw aggression and a more complete submission game. Combat Sambo, its more violent cousin, mixes strikes with throws. That means 1 second you're being punched, the next you're airborne, and then you're in a leg lock before you even know you've been taken down. In a street fight, that blend matters. Sambo doesn't care about clean technique. It's about speed, damage, and finishing fast. Fighters are taught to thrive in scrambles, when the position is messy and unpredictable. They're trained to stay calm and dangerous in the middle of chaos. It also targets the legs in ways most martial arts don't. A sudden heel hook or knee bar can end a fight immediately, and it's especially effective against aggressive strikers, because Sambo doesn't meet force with force. It redirects it and punishes overcommitment. I see red. The I see red mentality isn't a martial art, it's a mindset. The kind your average, untrained Joe taps into when he becomes aggressive. It's not taught in a gym. You don't drill it on pads. It's a psychological response, a mental switch that flips when your brain senses real danger. No coach teaches it, but it shows up in almost every real fight. This mindset is about commitment, not skill. It's the refusal to freeze, hesitate, or second guess. In street fights, the person who moves first and doesn't stop usually wins. And that's true whether they're trained or not. You could be an expert in striking or grappling, but if you hesitate, it won't matter. I see red means full engagement. You act fast, you hit harder, you follow through without pause. It doesn't give you technique, but it activates what you already have. It turns muscle memory into real violence under pressure. That's why this mindset often separates the people who walk away from the ones who don't. It doesn't make you invincible, and it's no replacement for training. But without it, training can fail when it matters most. That's also why military and police train high-stress, full-contact scenarios. Because skill without aggression doesn't hold up. Same thing in the street. If you can combine real technique with the ability to act immediately with full intent under pressure, you become exponentially more dangerous. That's what I see red really is. Not blind rage, not sloppy flailing, just zero hesitation when it's time to survive. Now it's time for every martial art that doesn't really work in the street. Karate. Karate began in the 14th century in Okinawa, influenced by Chinese martial arts and later formalized in Japan. It was designed as a striking art focused on discipline, precision, and personal development. Modern styles like Shotokan and Goju Ryu emphasize clean, linear movements, punches, kicks, blocks, and stances, practiced through patterns called kata and controlled partner drills. The problem is that traditional karate is built around ideal conditions. You throw punches from fixed stances, perform predictable combinations, and often stop after landing a clean shot in point sparring. There's rarely full contact, no grappling, and no pressure from chaotic, real-world scenarios. You're not training for someone to blitz you with wild swings, grab your hoodie, or tackle you to the concrete. Karate also relies on unrealistic defenses. Techniques like the downward block might look sharp in a dojo, but in a real fight, you're not going to time that perfectly against a hook flying at your jaw. Deep stances reduce mobility, and chambered punches, while powerful in theory, are too slow and telegraphed when every second counts. Unless it's adapted for realism, karate fails to address the core of street violence: unpredictability, aggression, and physical control. Without full contact sparring, clinch training, or takedown defense, it leaves huge gaps in your self-defense game. It teaches clean movements, but real fights are anything but clean. Aikido. Aikido was founded in Japan in the early 20th century by Morihei Ueshiba. Its philosophy is rooted in harmony, using an attacker's energy against them, rather than meeting force with force. Techniques focus on joint locks, wrist manipulations, and circular redirection of movement. In theory, it's about controlling violence without causing harm. But in a street fight, Aikido's core assumptions don't hold up. Almost every technique begins with a controlled wrist grab or a slow, predictable punch. Real attackers don't follow choreography. They swing wildly, tackle, or punch with no telegraph. Aikido training rarely includes live sparring or full resistance, which means students don't build timing, reaction speed, or the ability to adapt under pressure. And because Aikido doesn't include striking or clinch fighting, practitioners are often unprepared for aggressive stand-up exchanges. More importantly, most Aikido throws depend on the opponent reacting a certain way, turning, stepping, or falling to maintain flow. But in reality, people resist. They pull away, they struggle, they fight unpredictably. That resistance breaks down many Aikido techniques immediately. While Aikido can develop balance, posture, and spatial awareness, it simply doesn't simulate the chaos, violence, or speed of a real confrontation. It's elegant and disciplined, but in a real fight, elegance is rarely what keeps you standing. Capoeira. Capoeira originated in Brazil, developed by enslaved Africans who disguised it as a dance to train in secret. It combines kicks, spins, acrobatics, and rhythmic footwork known as ginga. Today, it's often practiced to music, emphasizing movement, flow, and expression. As a cultural and historical art form, capoeira is incredibly rich. But as a self-defense method in a real fight, it has major flaws. The most obvious issue is practicality. Capoeira techniques often involve low stances, inverted kicks, and continuous spinning, all of which expose your back, your balance, and your head. These moves work in a rota, the capoeira circle, where both participants know the rhythm, the rules, and the flow. But a street fight doesn't follow choreography. There's no beat to move to, and your opponent isn't waiting for a cartwheel kick to finish before they throw a punch. Most capoeira schools also lack live sparring under pressure. The movement is cooperative, not combative. There's little emphasis on taking hits, defending against grabs, or dealing with chaos, all of which are unavoidable in a real confrontation. And while capoeira athletes are incredibly athletic, being upside down mid-spin is the worst place to be when fists are flying. Capoeira is beautiful, athletic, and culturally important. But against an aggressive attacker who charges forward or swings wildly, it's almost entirely ineffective. The gym bro. The gym bro mindset emerged during the 20th century with the rise of bodybuilding culture and was amplified in the 21st century through fitness media and social platforms. It promotes the belief that muscularity alone equates to fighting ability, that a big chest and arms are enough to dominate in a physical confrontation. This view fundamentally misunderstands what makes someone effective in a fight. In reality, fighting is about skill, not size. And before you ask, the guy on the left would absolutely brutalize the guy on the right in a street fight, even though he only weighs 135 pounds. Effective striking and grappling require timing, balance, spatial awareness, and controlled aggression, all developed through sparring, drilling, and pressure-tested training. Gym bros often skip this entirely. They might be strong under a barbell, but they lack the ability to manage distance, control adrenaline, or respond under real threat. The result is poor mechanics in a street fight. Overcommitted swings, flat-footed posture, and telegraphed punches leave them exposed. Their size can become a disadvantage if they're taken to the ground or outmaneuvered. Additionally, without fight-specific conditioning, large muscle mass can fatigue quickly under stress, especially when adrenaline spikes. In controlled sports or self-defense scenarios, strength is a helpful tool, but only when paired with technique. The gym bro represents a common misconception that intimidation equals capability. In practice, trained fighters of smaller stature routinely dominate untrained but muscular opponents. Kung Fu. Kung Fu is a broad term for traditional Chinese martial arts developed over centuries, often tied to Shaolin monks and Chinese philosophy. It includes strikes, stances, joint manipulation, and sometimes weapons. Many techniques were originally designed for ancient battlefield conditions or ceremonial practice, not modern street violence. Most modern Kung Fu schools emphasize forms, choreographed routines that teach ideal movements in ideal conditions. But in real fights, nothing is ideal. There's no time to set up stances, and opponents don't attack like scripted training partners. Without consistent sparring or resistance-based drills, practitioners often lack the reflexes and pressure-tested instincts needed under stress. Kung Fu also contains outdated concepts like low stances and exaggerated strikes, which reduce mobility and expose you to counterattacks. While these moves may look impressive or carry historical meaning, they aren't biomechanically sound in a chaotic, close-quarters fight. Compared to combat-tested arts like boxing or MMA, which train under full contact, Kung Fu tends to fall short. Its traditional structure doesn't adapt well to the speed and unpredictability of real violence, making it ineffective for self-defense in most street fight scenario. Wing Chun. Wing Chun is a traditional southern Chinese martial art developed in the Qing dynasty, reportedly by a woman seeking a more efficient system to overcome larger opponents. Its core concepts include centerline theory, simultaneous attack and defense, and economy of motion. Wing Chun became popular in the West largely through Bruce Lee and his teacher, Ip Man. The art focuses heavily on hand techniques like chain punches, trapping, and sensitivity drills such as Chi Sao, which trains reflexes and flow. But these methods are built around close-range exchanges in a very static format. The problem is, real fights don't happen at perfect range, in straight lines, or with cooperative rhythm. Street altercations involve angles, movement, unpredictability, and usually someone trying to clinch or take you down. Most Wing Chun schools avoid full-contact sparring, or don't introduce it until very late. That means students never build the timing or resistance needed to apply techniques under pressure. Concepts like staying on the center line or deflecting punches with small wrist movements break down fast against wild, aggressive attacks, or even basic boxing combinations. Wing Chun's framework lacks answers for modern threats like wrestling takedowns, elbows, or high-pressure brawling. Without sparring or pressure testing, practitioners often develop a false sense of confidence based on compliance drills. In a real street fight, where mobility, reaction speed, and improvisation matter more than theory, Wing Chun's limitations are quickly exposed. Silat. Silat is a traditional martial art from Southeast Asia, especially Indonesia and Malaysia. It emphasizes joint locks, takedowns, and weapon use, often taught with ritualized, dance-like movements. Culturally rich and visually impressive, it's more performance-based than practical. The main issue is how it's trained. Most Silat schools use choreographed drills with compliant partners, rarely incorporating live sparring or resistance. That means practitioners don't develop real timing, reflexes, or adaptability, which are essential in a street fight. Its techniques may look effective in theory, but real fights are messy and unpredictable. Low stances, scripted counters, and stylized movements don't translate when someone's swinging wildly or trying to tackle you on concrete. Without pressure testing, Silat struggles to prepare anyone for real-world violence. Even the weapon defenses, while detailed, often assume slow, telegraphed attacks, not the fast, chaotic movements you'd see from someone actually trying to stab you. Without realistic resistance, Silat stays a beautiful art form, but not a reliable method for self-defense. Systema. Systema is a Russian martial art often promoted as a military-based system built on breathing, relaxation, and fluid movement. It emphasizes staying calm under pressure, but its actual training is rarely grounded in resistance or realism. Most demonstrations involve overly compliant attackers falling from soft touches or reacting to movements that wouldn't faze anyone in a real fight. The problem isn't just the lack of sparring, it's that the entire system operates on untested theory. No real drills under pressure, no timing development, no contact conditioning. The idea that relaxed movement and breathing can neutralize violence simply doesn't hold up when someone's throwing punches for real. In a chaotic, fast-paced street fight, Systema's concepts fall apart. You need reactions, not rituals. And unless your opponent agrees to pretend, this style doesn't prepare you for anything unpredictable or aggressive. Wrestling. Wrestling is one of the oldest and most foundational combat sports in the world. Its roots trace back thousands of years, from ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt to the Olympic Games of classical Greece. Modern wrestling, including freestyle and Greco-Roman, evolved through military training and sport competition, emphasizing takedowns, clinch control, and positional dominance. In terms of one-on-one combat, wrestling builds elite attributes: balance, strength, endurance, and the ability to control where the fight takes place. But in a real street fight, that same control can backfire. Wrestling is all about taking your opponent to the ground, and that's exactly what you don't want to do outside the gym. The ground isn't padded, it's concrete, asphalt, or worse. Driving someone into the pavement might injure them, but it can also injure you. And once you're down there, your back is exposed to a much bigger threat: multiple attackers. Street fights are rarely fair. If the person you're fighting has friends, or if someone nearby decides to jump in, you're in trouble. Wrestling puts you in close, locked-up positions with limited visibility and mobility. Not ideal when someone could stomp or stab you while you're busy chasing a single takedown. Wrestling is incredibly valuable as a base. It teaches control, toughness, and how to dictate range, but it lacks strikes, submissions, and escape tactics. In the street, you need the ability to disengage, create space, and strike or escape if things get chaotic. Wrestling teaches domination, but street fights demand survival. Jiu Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, BJJ, originated in the early 20th century when the Gracie family adapted traditional judo techniques into a ground-based grappling system focused on leverage, submissions, and control. It gained worldwide recognition during the first UFC events, where smaller BJJ practitioners defeated larger opponents using technique over strength. BJJ is extremely effective in one-on-one controlled environments. On the mat, it teaches positional dominance, chokes, and joint locks, all of which work well in sport or competition. But in a real street fight, the context changes dramatically. Going to the ground on concrete, surrounded by potential threats, puts you in serious danger. You're less mobile, exposed to strikes, and highly vulnerable to multiple attackers or hidden weapons. Sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu also builds habits that don't carry over well to unpredictable violence. Pulling guard, butt scooting, or focusing on points and grips can be disastrous when someone is trying to stomp your head in or slam you onto pavement. Many BJJ schools don't include striking or situational awareness, leaving critical gaps in street applicability. That doesn't mean BJJ is useless, far from it. It builds real grappling skill, control under pressure, and physical confidence. But on its own, without striking, takedown defense, or awareness training, BJJ is incomplete for street self-defense. Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do was developed by Bruce Lee in the late 1960s as a reaction against the rigidity of traditional martial arts. Rather than sticking to one system, Lee emphasized adaptability, taking techniques that work from any style and discarding what doesn't. At its core, JKD is a philosophy of efficiency, simplicity, and directness. But here's the issue. Jeet Kune Do isn't a fixed style. It's a concept. After Bruce Lee's death, what remained wasn't a codified system with clear training methods, but a loose framework. Today, JKD schools vary wildly. Some teach kickboxing with a few eye jabs and trapping drills. Others lean heavily into philosophy with little practical application. The lack of standardization makes it difficult to judge or develop consistent skill. Worse, many JKD programs avoid hard sparring. Without live resistance, it's impossible to know what actually works. The drills often feel theoretical, built on ideal timing and cooperation rather than chaotic, unpredictable violence. You don't learn how to take a hit, deal with pressure, or manage real aggression. Without structure, resistance, and pressure testing, a mindset alone won't win a street fight. The "I see red" mentality. "I see red" is a phrase often used to describe a heightened emotional state, usually driven by fear, rage, or panic, that kicks in during high-stress situations like street fights. It's not a martial art or a training method, but a mindset rooted in raw survival instinct. In theory, it can push someone to fight harder, faster, or more aggressively when threatened. The problem is that adrenaline doesn't equal ability. Aggression might give you a temporary edge if your opponent is hesitant or scared, but it doesn't teach you how to strike effectively, how to block, or how to manage distance. Most people who see red start flailing. Wide punches, poor balance, no defense, and if the fight goes beyond a few seconds, they gas out quickly. Adrenaline is a spike, not a strategy. Even worse, this mindset often removes judgment. People swing wildly, escalate too far, or make dangerous decisions, like charging someone with a weapon or ignoring surroundings. That's how people get seriously injured, arrested, or worse. But willpower without technique is just rage. The best fighters combine both, aggression with control, instinct with skill. Seeing red might get you to swing, but it won't help you win, and it won't help you survive.